All right, ready to rock?
Yeah.
You're like, why not?
No, I mean, I'm good to go. I'll wing it.
One small step for man.
Federal government is comparing white and gay.
We expected it to be very different, but they weren't at all.
The curse would be laid upon them.
One giant leap for mankind.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to another episode of Two Friends and a Conspiracy Theory.
Woo!
We're back. We're official.
Yeah, we got our merch on finally, y'all.
Yeah. It only took 1 billion years. We're like halfway through the damn series.
Well,
But
is this merch available somewhere, Angel, for purchase?
it is. And conveniently, there's a link right below this video for you to click and go check out yourself. And you can get shirts and stickers and God knows what else I selected. So I don't know. I just click a bunch of stuff. But yeah, you can get this in a bunch of different colors. You can get it in different styled shirts and cuts. I think it's even in a hoodie version. I can't remember, but I think so.
Wow,
So you
all
can
those
match
options
this.
should be their own conspiracy theory. It's so good. I feel like a lame salesman plug.
I like it. That's great. Yeah, so if you have not seen the series yet, we are 3 episodes in already, where this is our 4th episode, where myself and Radar DeBoard teach each other about different conspiracy theories. A limited series, which, by the way, I should add, while we're on the subject of merch, this is limited merch. So once the series is over, you can no longer get Two Friends and a Conspiracy merch. It will be put away in the vault.
Uh-oh.
Which
Just
is
like
a
the
clue.
government documents on aliens.
The vault is a clue to our conspiracy theory that we will be talking about today.
Ooh, okay.
So Radar did last week's episode. This week is I start us off with a conspiracy theory that is just crazy. And I'm pretty sure this was one that Radar didn't know anything, or at least very much about. And it's like one of the saddest ones that I just am always blown away when I get to talk about it. So, yeah. So are you ready?
I'm on pins and needles here. What the hell could this be?
Are you an animal lover?
I mean, yeah, I love animals. I feel like if you don't, that's like a huge red flag. But I swear I generally am.
Yeah. So first, I'm going to start with a couple of other conspiracies that are related to where this originated from before we jump into what it actually is.
You're killing me.
So if you have been alive for the last if you've ever been alive, you will have at some point in your life heard about 1 or 50 Walt Disney conspiracy theories. Walt Disney has, honestly, if you base it on just like lore and conspiracies and myths and made up stuff, he's probably the most interesting person that's ever been alive, because there are some doozies in reference to Walt Disney and his life and who he was and his afterlife and all these things. So there's a couple of big ones, though, that I just wanted to just briefly kind of get us in the mindset of what it is that Walt Disney, this is how people feel about Walt Disney, that they make this kind of shit up, okay?
Right.
Well, so we think. We don't know that it's
Right.
made up. Could be real. But one of the big ones is that Walt Disney was cryogenically frozen so that he can be reanimated when the technology became available, because they had apparently, when he died, the technology to freeze him.
To freeze him.
But not unfreeze him. So it's like a huge one. Like, a lot of people really like almost talk about him like he's this world overlord, kind of like he's going to come back. And it's such a weird premise for a guy that essentially started theme parks and cartoons, right? Like, it's very strange.
Right.
But you've heard of this one, the that he was frozen.
Yeah, the cryogenically frozen Walt Disney. Yeah, that's they parodied the hell out of that conspiracy theory on like a bunch of cartoons back in the early 2000s, and like I was young enough that I just didn't understand it and was like,
No.
what?
Yeah. No, it's one of the few that I have always heard about as well. It was like, it's one of those things where it was like, because he had all this money, he was a wealthy man.
Right.
And there was this like, and for the record, for anyone who's curious, Walt Disney's will is public record. You can look this up and see what was actually in his will. So it was like 45% of it went to like his family, 45% of it went to, I think, like the company, I can't remember. And then there was like a small percent, like whatever was left over, was at 10% that got left to split up between his siblings and their kids. And it's public record. You can look this up. Now that technically does not mean, right, that he didn't have other things written or whatever. But as far as what was written in his will, because that was the other thing, that's leading into my next one, which is that he left money in his will for the first man whoever was able to become pregnant.
What?
And it's crazy, right? Okay, so here's the thing. This is something that comes up more often than you would like to imagine, right? Because it's a very strange thing. But it's literally like nobody knows where that came from. It was literally just this like made up thing that then other people started to say, because I think there's kind of this like underlying, like, I hate to compare the two, but I feel like some people, when they believe in a lot of this stuff that has to do with Walt Disney, it feels very reminiscent of how people treated Hitler, right? He was like this, he was into all these things. The difference is we have proof that Hitler was into all of these things, but they treated, you know, Walt after he died, like he was like into all of these things, like like freezing himself, and he was into the science of reproductive. It's like very strange, like premise again for a guy that made amusement parks and cartoons. It's very strange.
Right. That's so I can't, like, my mind can't even fathom like a connection like between that and like the first male to successfully get pregnant. It just doesn't make any sense across the board.
And the crazy thing to me is that it's well documented that people talk about this.
What?
And it's like it's really like, where did that, I would love to know if somebody is watching this and they have information that I could not find on where the hell this came from. I'm like dying to know, right? Because it's super weird. And then the last one I just wanted to touch on, I think this is another pretty common one before we jump into like our actual subject matter for tonight, is that that people throw Ashes of the Dead into It's a Small World, the ride.
Well, I bet they do. I mean, this is a conspiracy theory show, Angel. I need you to leave the actual proven ones at the door.
So, and this one, and I'm sure if you are familiar with this one, you as in radar or you as in viewers, if you know this one, you know that there is also a ton of murmurs about there being dead bodies all over the park. That's like, and it's just this crazy thing of like death and Disney World.
Yeah,
it's the greatest place on earth, or the happiest, whatever it is, the happiest place on earth.
Right.
It's super haunted.
The only reason I say that the ashes thing is probably true is because Disney adults are weird. They are too eager.
I will say this with love in my heart, because I have a sibling that's in her 30s that is a Disney adult. It's very strange to me as well. I do not understand, because when you're categorized as a Disney adult, it does not just mean an adult that goes to Disney once every 2 years and has a good time. That is not what we mean when we say Disney adult. When we say Disney adult, you have a whole closet dedicated to the different mouse ears, and you got a different theme for every day that you're at the parks, and you got like, it's a very specific thing, and they can sometimes be very intense. That's true.
They approach zealot levels of fandom. It is very weird. Yeah, very off-putting. And so I could definitely imagine one of them going like, when I die, please, you gotta sneak into It's a Small World and dump my ashes in the water.
It's wild. And I love that. You know what's so funny to me is that, like, especially more like in the last, I would say like maybe 5 to 10 years, the correlation between Disney and horror has just like skyrocketed
Oh, yeah.
because it's so easy to take things that are elements of Disney and make them scary because they're kind of scary already. And so like there's this movie called, I don't recommend the movie, but it's called Tomorrowland or something like that. Have you seen this? It's like
The one with
filmed
George
in like the
Clooney?
black and white. It's like
Oh,
I think
no.
it's called Tomorrowland. But it's about this guy who goes on vacation with his family and they go to Disney World. And how they were
Uh-huh.
able to make this movie, Radar, because you know Disney is own it with them lawsuits. Like Disney does
Right.
not play. But it was like it's called, let me see, Disney horror movie. It's called,
I think I know what you're talking about.
it's like Tomorrowland, or it's like Tomorrow.
I think, yeah. Oh, yeah. Black and white. I'm pretty sure I know what you're
Oh
talking
no,
about.
it's not Tomorrowland. What the hell is it called? I
I
can't remember
don't.
what it's called. But anyway,
It's called.
it's a movie about this guy who it's not a very good movie, but it's a movie about this guy who goes on vacation with his family, and while he's there, he loses his job, and it's like this descent into madness
Ooh.
while he's like at the happiest place ever. It's very weird. But then there's also this really fun horror game called Bendy and the Ink Machine, which is very Mickey Mouse old cartoons. And it's so fun. But I love that we've taken something as supposed to be and as supposedly innocent as like this like childlike place, and it's just gone like completely off the rails with theories.
Right.
And this is only 3. There are, and we're going to talk about the 4th that I want to talk about, which is the main focal. But there's like so many things that people have said about Disney and what they think he's into and what he's done, and it gets very deep rabbit hole, as it were.
Yeah, well, and they even have creepy pastas about Disneyland itself too.
So fun though.
I know there's at least 2 or 3 out there. I can't remember them because there's 7 bajillion creepy pastas, but I know there's at least a few that I have myself listened to on Disneyland.
Yeah, and now we're getting the Disney horror movies. Like Winnie the Pooh's not Disney, but we're getting like the Tinkerbell and they've done like other ones. There's a couple of horror Alice in Wonderlands, which doesn't. Okay, those are obviously based off other things besides Disney,
Right.
but Disney is kind of the one that like projected them into like the mainstream
Right,
side
like-
of media. But anyway, it gets really crazy. So the correlation between Disney and horror in the fiction world is very clear, but there is also a correlation in real life that I think makes Disney scary. And that is going to be the story of a cute little creature called the lemming.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So lemmings are small rodent-like creatures. They're very small. They kind of remind me of gophers.
Right. Aren't they like just a really dumb gopher?
Kind of. Yeah, they're just
Okay.
they're really cute. They're very cute. Like they're just little round, little chunky. They're really cute. They even have a cute name, lemmings. That's adorable. So lemmings are have very specific places that they live. There's over like 20 species of them. They look different colors, different sizes, different locations, blah, blah, blah. But primarily they live in Alaska. And there are 3 main species found in Alaska that you can see all the time in the wilderness. Like they're just hanging out. Because I actually used to think, based on this conspiracy story that we're going to talk about, I actually used to think they were extinct, but they're not.
Uh-oh.
They still,
that's not a good
still-
omen.
no, they're still just like chilling and hanging out and playing in the snow and being cute. There was a long period of time in the 50s and into the 60s and into the 70s and the 80s and even into now, where lemmings were believed to have mass suicide rituals, where they would populate a certain location, they would run out of food, or they would start to run, and they would realize that their numbers were too big. So then they would jump off of cliffs into ice water and kill themselves, basically, to lower their population numbers.
And so the theory is that like the lemmings have the foresight to understand that they're out of resources, and they're like, might as well end it.
Oh no, I haven't gotten to the theory yet.
What the hell? Okay. All right.
So the thing is like the concept of a rodent like that, right?
Yeah.
having the idea of population control doesn't really, but animals are a lot smarter than we give them credit for, right?
Right.
So some of it would almost make sense because there have been instances for like plenty of times because you have the wildlife people, you have like the National Geographic people that go out and photograph and write about animals, and you've got people in the world that are studying these things to learn more about them. And there have been instances where they have moved from location to location, and you
Mhm.
might find like a bunch of their carcasses together from where they starved, or the terrain was too rough, or whatever the situation may be.
Right.
But what they do in real life, lemmings, is that if they've overpopulated an area and they've run out of food, they will just get in a group and they will move to another location. Just like
Okay.
most animals, I think a lot of animals do that. If they run out of food, they move on.
Right.
You
They
know.
just mass exodus to another.
Yeah, they just find somewhere else to live because obviously they can't sustain themselves there anymore. Yeah, so for a long time, people genuinely believed that, the lemmings were like, damn, it's a little overpopulated. Let's just go jump off that cliff and just, that was like the belief for a long time.
I love that idea that they're like animals are stupid, but the lemmings are smart enough to know that life's not worth living.
And they just
Like
give up.
to have depression.
Yeah.
It's the
So-
French lemming, I guess. I don't know.
And like the initial source of this is because of finding, a group of dead lemmings because of the moving, right? So for a long time, it was believed that that's what they would do. Now, the main source of this belief that lemmings did this is actually from a 1950s Walt Disney documentary called The White
Uh-oh.
Wilderness.
Uh-oh.
Yes. So, White Wilderness, if you're not familiar, you can find a lot of these clips. I am going to, if I remember, I'm going to link the YouTube video where you can watch the lemmings portion in the description for this episode. If you love animals, it will be quite uncomfortable to watch. I will warn you ahead of time. So they went and did this documentary, and they covered all kinds of animals, but it was Disney's venture out into documentary filmmaking and kind of just branching out and doing more informative things. The problem is sometimes when you are doing documentaries about animals, the animals don't always do enough to be really interesting, right? Because they're just animals. They're just hanging out.
Right.
And yeah, so they did a lot of different animals. The lemmings were in White Wilderness Part 2 in a segment called, where's my notes? Because I can't remember, The Lemmings and the Arctic Bird Life. So those were the ones that were combined in that episode together, were birds and the lemmings.
Hey, they got top billing though, so that's something.
Yeah, right.
And
it's crazy because it's so like to think about what people do to animals in real life is already hard enough on me. Like I really struggle with that. Like I'm a massive, massive elephant lover. And like there's like a super high chance that elephants will be extinct in my lifetime. Like because they're poached for their ivory. And so like anything involving animals, it's like instant wiping of the tear, right? Like I couldn't finish watching the clip. I couldn't get through it. It was really upsetting to watch. So in the clip, there's these cute little lemmings hopping around and hanging out with each other. And it's talking, there's this voiceover. I forget the guy's name. It's not Walt that's doing the voiceover. It's somebody else. But
is it a British dude? I feel like if you're a documentary in like the 40s to 70s, it's just a British dude.
He's actually, I don't think he was British. His name is like Hubbard or Hubbing or something like that. I don't know who he is, but I don't remember if he's English or not.
I hope it's not Hubbard.
It might be.
Oh no. Elrond branched out from writing for a little bit there in the 50s.
And this is his fault.
Isn't it always?
This is a great show to talk about that. Speaking of conspiracy theories and insanity. Yeah, so the documentary, it talks about them and it goes into this whole spiel about where they live and how they are and all these things. But it's all like, and then they start talking about this thing where lemmings will go to the edges of cliffs in droves and just throw themselves off of it. And it's a harsh fall down the cliffs. I mean, these are not straight offs. Like this is not a quick, you know what I mean?
Okay,
like,
it's not like straight to the bottom. It's like
it's like it goes in like
Oh.
divots and there's like flat areas. And anyway, so you can see in the video, in the clip, these little animals just like flying off of the cliffs and tumbling and falling and trying to get back up and all these things
Oh.
until they get into the water. And then the final shot of the clip, and I had to look this up because again, I couldn't watch it. It was really sad. There's just a bunch of them like dead in the water. Like,
Oh
it's really
God.
sad.
And I assume that like some of them made it to the water. Is this show drowning?
Yeah,
Oh, what the hell, Disney?
so yeah. So based on what actual wildlife professionals know about lemmings, all of these claims about lemmings offing themselves is complete rubbish. It's all made up.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Oh,
So
no.
when in fact the filmmakers forced the lemmings
God.
towards the edge of the cliff, and when they wouldn't go, they flung them and pushed them off
What the
the cliff.
what?
Yeah.
They just killed a bunch of lemmings for
For no
a really
reason.
shitty documentary?
Just to make up something about these animals to put in
What?
their White Wilderness documentary.
What the hell?
And it's
That's-
sad because I think if you had seen this in the 50s, right, you might would have bought it. You might would have believed, because animals do very weird things. There's this thing
That's
called
true.
an assassin bug that plucks the webs of spiders to get spiders to come out so it can eat them. It also kills ants and piles the dead ant bodies on its body for camouflage so that it can keep killing ants. So animals do bizarre things. My son's very into bugs. And so like you in the 50s, especially the mindset, right? The time
Right.
frame, the knowledge base or lack thereof, like
You
you're
can't
just like,
look this up.
no, you're like, oh my God, they're doing it. They're doing it on their own, because you don't see anybody holding it. You never see that.
Right.
But when you watch it now, they were trying so hard to get back up.
Oh,
And they
man.
literally, like, you know how there's a difference between falling and being thrown as far as like how high you
Yeah.
get off the ground. They were forced, and it's very evident. This part of it is 100% true, but it became this conspiracy theory because there are people that still believe that lemmings do this as a means of population control, that they
wow.
just off themselves and jump into the water in Alaska.
And so Walt Disney literally directly is at fault for that conspiracy theory,
Yes,
and also killing hundreds of lemmings.
lots of lemmings. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
it's
Well,
so
'cause
sad.
That's
Like,
wild. For
yeah,
and it just that's so stupid. Like that just doesn't make any like they're cute.
they're
Like
so
a lemming is cute, you know, like
yeah, and they're not like harmful to anything, like some
yeah.
things take over things, and then they
Mhm.
become a problem to like vegetation or life or whatever, right? But yeah, no, they're just these cute little chunky, and they're very round, they're very cute. And
Right.
and yeah, so it became this big thing because the filmmakers were not outed until much later, like way longer, like
Of
in the
course.
90s, early 2000s, when people started going, this doesn't feel right, like there's something up with this. And this is a quote. I'm going to read this little bit. It's a quote from one of the wildlife professionals that lives in Alaska that studied lemmings and knows quite a bit about them. They said, they posted in an article just a little bit more to kind of give you an idea of like how lemmings actually function versus the Disney nonsense. So under ideal conditions, in a single year, a population of voles, which is another type of rodent, it's lemmings, can
Mhm.
increase by a factor of 10. When they've exhausted the local food supply, they disperse, as do moose, beaver, and many other animals. Lemmings can swim and will cross bodies of water in their quest for greener pastures. Sometimes they may drown if the distance is too great. Dispersal and accidental death is a far cry from the instinctive, deliberate mass suicide depicted in White Wilderness.
Wow. Just call them out, which fair. They need to be called out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, because people who really work with animals love them. They don't want them to
Mhm.
be mistreated.
Right.
And the standards for anything related to animals in the 50s was virtually non-existent. No one cared
It's
about
pretty
animals in
bad.
the 50s. No one cared about human beings. I mean, we still struggling with both of those, but
Yeah.
it's crazy to me because they got away with this. Like White Wilderness, tons of people saw that, and not only did they see it, they spread the misinformation and then told all these people,
Right.
man, these lemmings are bananas. They just like,
They're wild.
it's crazy. And it's sad because it's like, so the conspiracy side of this, because it's obviously been disproven, right? But the conspiracy element is this made up story about lemmings that Disney essentially cultivated because of their documentary that they were making. And
Right.
then it's like, it's kind of like it's not really the same thing, but it kind of makes me think of like the negative effects of Jaws. It's like it's really
Right.
bad because the other thing is
Yeah.
like people thought genuinely that these things, it'll figure itself out in a second.
Okay.
People really thought, that these things were extinct, that they all just walked off a cliff. Come on, man. And it's like, in what world, like what, and people believe it, people still this pissed me off. And it's crazy.
That's why. Yeah, and the Jaws thing too. Yeah, because like the amount of people who were scared of sharks skyrocketed, and then the amount of sharks who kept getting killed has
Yeah.
gone up since Jaws. And I think it makes it even worse that these filmmakers went out, killed lemmings for no reason, because you could probably get away with just filming them because they're so cute, and that would be cool. But they killed a whole bunch of lemmings and then just spread this conspiracy theory like it was no big deal.
It's crazy. And it's, to me, like, of all of the things, that I've read about, that I've heard about Disney, I think this one is the most harmful and the most upsetting because, like, I could give a shit less if he's frozen somewhere underground. You know what I mean? Who cares?
Right. That's not really
You know?
hurting anyone. That's just
No,
weird.
it's and the men getting pregnant thing, I don't really care about that either.
Yeah.
The
Again,
dead bodies and the small world, I'm not getting on that ride anyway. It's creepy. Like that kind of stuff just doesn't really affect me. But the concept of hurting animals basically for the sake of views, right?
yeah.
Is so crazy. But then to create this whole lie that like
Yeah.
so many people still don't know. Like so many people, if you bring this up, think that lemmings aren't alive anymore, or that they commit mass suicide for population control. It's insane.
It's wild. And I guess another layer to it too is if people think they're going extinct or they are extinct, think about how much like conservation efforts were misplaced going to helping lemmings who don't need
Instead of
it.
an animal that really
Yeah.
needed it. That's a
Instead
really
of
good point.
Instead of an animal that's probably now extinct or close to it,
Yeah, because there's so many of them because human beings are the worst.
You had it right there, y'all. You need to
Yeah.
do better. No. But it's true.
My partner
bad.
got me this elephant bracelet for, I think it was this past Christmas, and it comes with like a thing to download so you can follow an elephant, like a specific one. And
kinda neat.
when you open it's so cute. Her name is Luna. She is a 2-year-old little baby elephant girl. She's so
Aw.
cute. Or she sounds cute. I don't know what she looks like, but she sounds cute because she's a baby elephant. But anyway, but I say all that to say, when you open the app to upload the code or whatever so that it connects you to the one that is assigned to your bracelet,
Yeah.
like it tells you that they have to delay the updates so that poachers don't use the app to find elephants.
Oh,
And you're just
that's
like, what the
brutal.
fuck is even going through? Like, you know what I'm for? I'm for the people that get paid money to kill poachers. I'm here for it.
Oh man. That's brutal.
Yeah. So the lemmings was my conspiracy for this episode because I think it's got some provable things outside of, just
Right.
theories, but it's essentially rooted very much in conspiracy and craziness. And so I wanted to talk about it. Yeah, because not a lot of people realize that that's the reality of what happened to the lemmings. So.
Right. And it's such a weird conspiracy too, because it was done by a company like a well-known company that's in the popular zeitgeist. And the fact that because they have this pull, this sway, they didn't have much back in the 50s, as much anyways, but still enough, obviously.
Still, yeah.
To like make a huge population believe this sort of thing. And it's probably a very damaging one in the animal community of like, what conventional wisdom / conspiracy theory. It's so fascinating.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think, it's interesting because this is sort of a, what do you call it? Like it's not Walt Disney himself, right? But it's
Right.
Disney that did the documentary.
Right.
So
it's
there
the
are
company.
ties to it to me, like I said, like they never saw any repercussions from that. Like nothing bad ever happened to them because by the time these other professionals were like, wait, that's some bullshit. Like, hold on. And they started realizing what was actually happening and going back and watching. And you can tell, I'm telling you, if you get interested enough to watch the clip, you can tell that these poor things were not just jumping on their own free will. It's very evident in the video. And it's like, by the time that came along, this was so old. Like no one cared, probably. I can imagine them saying that this is what this company did. And the people who were in charge of punishing those people are like, yeah, it's okay though. Because it's like Disney, right? So it's fine.
Right.
It's
like, oh, well, they're like, oh, it was 40 years ago. Let bygones be bygones.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's my sad little conspiracy about little lemmings. They're so cute. Like they're just like little kitten-sized gophers. They're cute. They're really
man.
cute.
Well, they can't all be happy-go-lucky conspiracy theories.
No. I think this might be the saddest one we talk about, though. I think.
Fingers crossed.
The rest of mine, I think, are just either really well known or just kind of like little quirky. You know what I mean? Like this was the heaviest one. I wanted to do it kind of early because of that. Because I was like, oh, it's kind of sad. It's a bummer, but
it needs to be pointed out. Damn it.
We're here to educate.
That is true. And by golly, we get educated every episode.
That's true. Yeah. So, so next episode will be Radar teaching me about conspiracy theory.
I got it all planned out. It's going to be a cool one.
Oh, can't wait. So go watch the depressing ass video of the lemmings or don't. That's fine too. If you've heard of the lemmings conspiracy, if you knew this already, let us know in the comments. I'd be curious to know what other people are like. Oh yeah, I totally knew about that one. It's wild because it's crazy. So anyway,
and also comment letting us know what that black and white Disney horror movie is.
It's called The Land of Tomorrow.
The Land of Tomorrow. Okay, never mind. Don't comment.
I was close. I think it's called The Land of Tomorrow.
Maybe do comment.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Regardless, you should comment. It helps. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's not The Land of Tomorrow. Somebody help us in the comments. What the hell's the name of that damn Disney knockoff movie? And I think Disney watched it and they were like, this is awful. Don't sue him. It's fine. Somehow he was able to like film in the parks. And this was from, what is this, from mid 2000s, I think, early 2000s. I can't remember. But anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's gonna wrap up, I think, this episode of Two Spirits. I don't even know. I'm so bothered by the lemmings. What is it called? What's the name of the show?
Two Friends in a Conspiracy.
That's it. That one. What he said. And keep in mind, merch is super limited with this logo. So if you like it, if you dig it, if you want to help, support the channel, the merch link is in the description for this episode. So Radar and I will be back next week with another conspiracy theory, this time on him. And that's all we have for this one. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on this episode of Two Friends and a Conspiracy. And we will see you in the next one.